V.P. Singh was born on June 25, 1931, in Allahabad to the younger wife of the Raja of Dahiya, Bhagwati Prasad Singh. When he was 5, he was given in adoption to the childless Raja of Manda, Ram Gopal Singh, an Anglophile with a long lineage of British loyalists. V.P. Singh was a lonely child confined to the care of a Scottish couple because his adoptive father was consumptive. He wasn't allowed to meet his natural family. When the Raja of Manda died, V.P. Singh was only 11. The Dahiya family reclaimed him, but thereafter he was constantly surrounded by armed guards as his adoption had been challenged by his family. V.P. Singh went to Colonel Brown's School in Dehradun and the Havit Kshatriya School in Banaras. He received his Bachelor of Arts and Law degrees from Allahabad University, where he entered student politics and was elected the Vice President of the university. In 1955, he married Sita Kumari from Deoghar, Madaria in Rajasthan and had 2 sons, Ajay and Abhay. V.P. Singh became an activist in the Bhudan movement in 1957. When he donated his Manda estate to the movement, his wife later filed an affidavit alleging that he had done this in a fit of insanity. The land that she reclaimed, he then donated to a college that he built and taught in for a while. Unlike other congressmen, V.P. Singh has not had a very long political career. He joined Mrs. Gandhi in 1969 at the age of 38. What also sets him apart is his long record of resignations.
In one sense, if it does come to a decision which is something deep within me, I am a loner. When it came to the decision of when I was a chief minister, with something deep within called me that I must maintain the credibility with the people of my vote. I didn't consult anyone, not even Indira Gandhi. When it came to resign from the defense ministry, I didn't consult anyone. It was something within.
Ironically, each of V.P. Singh's resignations always catapulted him into further success, and he has a historical series of them. His very first was when he was only a student, when he resigned in protest against his school principal who had nominated a boy to contest the school elections. His protest against teachers' interference won him admirers who then supported his candidacy for school prefect. He resigned as Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh in 1982, admitting failure in curbing the dacoit problem. 2 years later, he became Union Commerce Minister. V.P. Singh's tough stand as Finance Minister earned him grandiose nicknames like Czar of the North Bloc, folk hero to the common man. It also earned him a transfer to the Defence Ministry and put an end to the raid Raj that Rajiv Gandhi's government became synonymous with.
Given your history of clean-up campaigns on businessmen, would you continue that?
I think there has been a distortion on projection on this point. In fact, as Finance Ministry, I was more concerned giving impetus to the economy, you see. And I'm very clear, for a strong India, you need a strong industrial base. But activity which is not industry in the genuine sense, you see, is something else than industry, which robs the poor man's share, which robs the money of its wealth, siphons the money's wealth out of the country, is not industrial activity. This is an activity which saps the economy of the country, and so it has to be fought.
Yet another feather in V.P. Singh's cap was his resignation as Defence Minister in April 1987, when party men protested against his holding an inquiry into commissions paid for HDW submarines. This time he emerged cleaner than Mr. Clean, who was reduced by the press to being called merely Mr. Whitewash.
I have always resigned to fight. Again, I have not resigned to run and go out of it. See.
This seemed to fit in with the argument of V.P. Singh's critics, who felt that even as he threw in the towel, he had his eyes on the main chance. He was expelled from the Congress Party in July 1987, but rode on a wave of nationwide popularity when he launched a crusade against corruption in the Rajiv government.
I was very clear in my mind in '85 itself that one day this system will throw me out, or I gather sufficient support for a change in it.
Bofors became the plank of VP Singh's 2.5-year-old crusade against the Congress government.
What steps will you take on Bofors?
You see, now, insofar there has been violation of our law of payment of commissions. Now, payment of commissions was banned. So there has been a violation. Now there's proof. The Swedish Audit Bureau report says there has been payment. Hindu documents shows there are commissions. Now, insofar as our law has been violated, there is a case, actionable case now in this country. On that, we can start a case, then ask the Swiss banks to cooperate and find out the names as to who are the beneficiaries.
It was very clear by 1988 that VP Singh was emerging as the alternative, though all the while he denied any such ambition of being Prime Minister. In this, he was Machiavellian. What Machiavelli said of Pope John XI, one could well say of VP Singh. Quote, "There never was a man who made promises more persuasively and swore to them solemnly and kept so few of them as he. Yet his tricks always brought the results he desired."
2 years ago, you said that you would publicly declare that you would not hold office again, government office again.
I retain my position.
So you will not hold government office again?
No, I will not.
Does that mean that you're not in the running for the Prime
No, I'm
Ministership?
not.
You're not in the running for the Prime
I'm not
Ministership?
only running the Prime Minister.
Even if you're pressurized to take up the post, will you take it up? Even if the party, comes...
Pressures cannot pressurize conscience.
So even if tremendous pressure is brought upon you to take up the post as Prime Minister, you will not?
If you believe me, one sentence should be sufficient.
Then again, on the Ayodhya issue, VP Singh promised his Muslim audience that he would go to Ayodhya on November the 9th to make a final appeal to the Vishwa Hindu Parishad.
आज उस हिंदुस्तान को बचाना कि दिलों पे जो है वो लकीरें न पड़े और इसीलिए मैं परसों अयोध्या जा रहा हूं इसलिए जा रहा हूं कि अभी कोई सूरत निकले कोई मेल मोहब्बत का रास्ता तो निकले.
The Bharatiya Janata Party, with whom the Janata Dal had seat adjustments, created an uproar, and the Machiavellian in VP Singh prevailed. He did not go.
Except that you did say that you were going to Ayodhya.
Ayodhya means Faizabad, generally known as Faizabad.
But people were under the impression that you were actually going to where the site of the mandir is.
By then they had already put the stone, what would I do? And if you want amicable settlement, I mean, you have to see where you can still continue to play a role.
From the very start, VP Singh was shrewd enough to evade the leadership issue, conscious of the fact that there were other politicians who were more experienced than him in his party, who had been waiting in the wings ever since the Janata government failed in 1977. A year ago, in an interview with Newstrack, he was careful to say that he would be a disaster as Prime Minister.
Well, I mean that in the opposition, there are leaders who are certainly more capable than me, more experienced than me, who have got, whose sacrifices are more, longer public life. Certainly, when you think about your country, the best should be available to it. So in that sense, if the best, the country is being deprived of the best. So it is a sort of a disaster.
With VP Singh's self-deprecatory attitude and his switching of positions, he has often been labelled weak and indecisive.
If I were weak, I wouldn't have taken on Rajiv Gandhi. At least ask Rajiv Gandhi whether I'm weak. And the whole might of the central government and the state governments in the Congress party.
But can VP Singh's government survive? At this point, he is a sitting duck given the forces working against him. The industrialist group, backed by the Congress eye, the opposition itself, and then, of course, his rivals within his party busy plotting to undermine him. Does this moment in time need a tough, ruthless politician, the Thakur side of VP Singh? Or can it manage with gentle persuasion based on collective decision, VP Singh's Bhudan side? If VP Singh's election as leader of his party is anything to go by, the Machiavellian will survive.